You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. The former Atlanta cop who fatally shot Rayshard Brooks in the back after he turned and pointed a stun gun in his direction will be charged with felony murder and 10 other charges. District Attorney Paul Howard made this announcement just a couple of hours ago.
So these are the charges that we have had filed today, signed by one of our Superior Court judges. These are the 11 charges against Officer Rolfe. The first charge is felony murder. This is the death that is as a result of a underlying felony. And in this case, the underlying felony is aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And the possible sentences for a felony murder conviction would be life without parole, or the death penalty. Now, he's also charged in the arrest warrant with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And this is a count charging him for the shooting of Mr. Brooks, and the possible sentence for aggravated assault is 1 to 20 years. The third aggravated assault account is for the shooting towards or in the direction of Mr. Melvin Evans. Mr. Evans was the person who was seated in the car. We have the picture of this. And so with count 4 against Miss Officer Rolfe, it charges him with aggravated assault for firing the weapon in or in the direction of Danielle Killians, who was in the passenger side of the front seat of the car. Next slide. Count 5 is an aggravated assault charge, and this was a charge for shooting towards or in the direction of Michael Perkins. Mr. Perkins was seated in the rear of this same vehicle at that time. There's a charge for criminal damage for shooting into that vehicle. Also, Officer Rolfe is charged with 7 violations of office. Each one of those carries a 1 to 5 sentence. These are violations of his oath of office for the city of Atlanta, arresting Mr. Brooks for the DUI without immediately informing him of the arrest, shooting a taser at Mr. Brooks while he was running away, which again is a violation of Atlanta's own SOP. Thirdly, excessive force when shooting a firearm at Mr. Brooks. And number 4 is the failure to render timely medical aid. Those are the 4 violations of oath. The 8th is for kicking Mr. Brooks, and the possible sentence for kicking Mr. Brooks is from 1 to 20 years. And we actually have a photograph of and these are the charges for Officer Brosnan, and there are a total of 3 charges. And the first charge is for aggravated assault, and this is for standing or stepping on Mr. Brooks's shoulder. The possible sentence for this crime is 1 to 20 years. And this is a photograph of Officer Brosnan, who you can see to the right. And at the time of the photograph, he is standing on the body of Mr. Brooks.
Stunning detail by DA Paul Howard. Again, former Officer Garrett Rolfe, who fired the shots. 11 total charges, including felony murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Officer Devin Brosnan has 3 total charges against him, including aggravated assault and a violation of his oath. Let's go to our panel right now, folks, to break this thing down. This is just really, again, a stunning development here, and how quickly how quickly the DA moved. Joining us right now is A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Robert Patillo, executive director, Rainbow Push, Coalition Peachtree Street Project. Brooke Thomas, she is the host, Controlling Our Narrative podcast. Let's start with you, Robert. You're there in Georgia. Again, Paul Howard moves extremely fast on this one. You have critics who are saying, oh, this is all politically driven. But the fact that we now know, as he described, the officer standing on his shoulder, kicking Brooks, saying, I got him, trust me, that tells a different story about what took place that night outside of that Wendy's.
Absolutely. I think also we have to look at the structure of these charges as Paul Howard articulated them. They did not charge him with first-degree murder or any of the intentional murders, but rather felony murder. So the only intentionality they have to show is the intention to commit the aggravated assault, which was the firing of the weapon at Mr. Brooks. So that's a far easier thing to prove, where you don't have to prove intent, you don't have to prove malice aforethought. All you really need to show is that you criminally fired your weapon at that individual, and which caused his death, which I think is a threshold which can be met. Going further, the way of showing that this was outside of the scope of his duty, outside of the scope of any reasonable law enforcement activity, is the fact that they went through the pains of describing how they searched Mr. Brooks and knew that he was not armed, that there were no additional weapons. They stated that the taser had been fired twice into Mr. Brooks, so they knew that the taser was unloaded and not dangerous at that point. And Paul Howard made it very clear that they had no reason to chase him, they had no reason to shoot him. And then moving on to the additional counts, the reckless nature of this officer firing his handgun where it went into a populated area, into a vehicle that had people in it, those are additional charges also, because you cannot just say that there's collateral damage. You damage someone else's property, you put lives in danger as a law enforcement officer, then you fail to render assistance, and you assault a man as he is dying. I think these are the proper charges, and I think with a Fulton County jury in a city like Atlanta, he has a very good chance of getting convictions on many, if not all, of the counts.
Bolden, that detail is important, and it has to raise the question. We have seen numerous cases like this before. Why didn't DAs move this quickly prior to the death of George Floyd?
Well, every case is different, and all the facts are different, and the jurisdictions and who's being led at these local level for prosecutors is really, really important. Notice here, there were no lesser includeds in the charging document. That is, no manslaughter, no unintentional assaults or unintentional manslaughter charges, anything that sounded like that. This was personal. And, you know, Roland, I've talked about this with you before. The police and their training, they're using deadly force to compel someone to be handcuffed, to compel someone to stop running. That's not lawful. That's not legal. It's since Tennessee v. Garner, it's been illegal. And yet we see around the country, if you don't comply, these police officers mentally and psychologically, they get focused and say, I've got to get you to get on the ground. I've got to get you to put these handcuffs on. And I can use any force, any deadly force to do so. You see it over and over again. And that just makes no sense whatsoever. That can't be their training. And if it is his training, who are we giving guns and badges to? And we got to retrain these officers, because there's no room for judgment in how they're implementing this training in Atlanta and elsewhere.
Brooke, obviously, and I keep telling people this, the speed in which we are moving since the death of George Floyd, that is the catalyst for the kind of pressure on mayors, on DAs to step their game up.
Absolutely. I think that the part that I think public pressure has been playing in this, and public outrage, it's not just coincidental, because we saw with Ahmaud Arbery, and of course that wasn't a police shooting, but it was the shooting that there was really no movement as far as charges for months with the same information. I think it was the 2 months with the same information that they've had the same information when they finally made a decision, had the same information, same video footage all along, but nothing happened until people saw it, the public saw it, and were outraged. And I think city leaders, government leaders, officials, prosecutors, they have been kind of focused on the police unions and what's their say in it. And now there's a whole other aspect, and it's the public and public outrage. And people are saying that they're not going to stand for this. They're not going to stand for injustice. They're not going to stand for things to just be pushed under the rug. And it's proving to be stronger than what we're used to happening.
But that really is the most important thing. That again, when you talk about this pressure, when you talk about what's going on here, and that is the public is saying we can't accept these excuses. Look at the George Floyd case as well. DA comes out on a Thursday. Oh, look, these normally take 9 months to a year for whatever reason. Then the next day, charges are announced. Once Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, took over. The bottom line is that DAs typically are loath to prosecute police officers. And they come up with all kind of other things. And that's just being honest, that's the deal. But I think what you had here, the pressure of the mayor immediately firing this officer, to making her statement. Then she comes out on Monday, as Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, announcing new police procedures. And again, if you're the DA, don't sit on this. The hell with the union, the hell with the critics, the hell with the other police officers out there talking about we got low morale. You are there to serve and protect the public.
Yeah, but Roland, let me tell you.
No, hold on. That was Robert. Robert, then Scott.
Oh,
Robert,
I'm sorry. Forgive me. Go right
Robert.
ahead.
Yeah. No problem. And I think we always hear from people that, there's always this countercultural argument that voting doesn't matter, voting doesn't do anything. Paul Howard is in a re-election campaign that he has not been in probably over a decade with Fonnie Willis, and they have a runoff coming up in August. And you better believe that the fact that he needs the people of Atlanta to be behind him and to vote for him in order for him to stay in office, this is why it's so important for us to exercise the franchise and get out there and vote, because when elected officials feel that pressure from the people, they are more likely to act. So the police union can march up and down the street and yell and do slowdowns and threaten to resign en masse all they want. But when our political leadership knows that the people are ready to boot them out of office, the power of the people wins every time.
Scott.
Yeah, this mythology that bars or causes prosecutors to hesitate is that they don't want to second guess the police no matter what, because if the police walk off the job, our streets won't be safe. What you're seeing transformative now is that the people are saying that doesn't matter. Politicians who are running for office says that doesn't matter anymore. But the police misconduct and bad conduct drives that narrative counter to that mythology. And so as a result, you're seeing now this transformation, not just with racial injustice, but how police interact with people of color. Black people and white people and brown and yellow people are seeing just how abusive the police are around the country. And that's making a difference. That's the difference we're seeing. Now, what do we do with it? How do we make it sustainable? And how do we make it so that everybody is not just anti-racist, but everybody's anti-racism if you're an American citizen? That's where we got to get to. And if this is the seminal moment, so be it. But we got to get there no matter what.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Fam, we support Black-owned businesses, obviously. So check out these headphones by Ceek. Mary Spio, her sister, she is the designer, the inventor, the creator of these unbelievable great headphones, 360-degree sound 4D headphones. If you do gaming, you can use these headphones. You can actually talk. There's Bluetooth as well. Unbelievable. And so they got a partnership with us, folks, and that is you have a promo code. If you buy these headphones, you get a discount. Go to Ceek.com and use the promo code right there. You see it, RMVIP2020. RMVIP 2020. And so we certainly want to thank Mary Spio and the folks at Ceek.com.